Before this video ends, I want you to count. Count how many of these 10 signs you recognize in yourself. Because by the time we reach sign 10, most people aren't just nodding along anymore. They're sitting in silence. And here's the question I want you to hold the entire time you're watching. Was I shaped by pain, or was I sharpened by it? Keep that question alive, because by the end of this video, you'll know the answer. What if the most painful chapters of your life quietly made you smarter than most people will ever be? Not smarter in the way schools measure, smarter in the way life does. There's a psychological phenomenon that researchers have only recently started naming. And when I tell you what it is, I need you to actually sit with it. Because if you've ever felt too much, noticed too much, or carried more than anyone around you seemed to, this might be the first time someone gives that a real name. It's called traumatic intelligence. And here's the part that will stay with you. The brain doesn't just break under pressure. In very specific, measurable ways, it builds. Stay until sign 7, because that one tends to hit people the hardest. And stay until sign 9, because almost nobody talks about this one. But it explains something you've probably felt your entire life and never had the words for. Psychologists in developmental neuroscience have observed something striking. Children who grow up in emotionally unpredictable environments, homes where moods shifted without warning, where danger was inconsistent, where safety had to be earned, those children don't just survive those environments. Their brains adapt to them. Specifically, two regions, the amygdala, which processes emotional threat, and the prefrontal cortex, which handles strategic thinking, become wired differently. Tuned sharper, more sensitive to subtle signals that most people never even register. The result is a form of intelligence that is largely invisible from the outside, but runs incredibly deep on the inside. Here are the 10 signs you carry it. Sign 1. You read a room before a single word is spoken. You walk into a space and something shifts inside you. A quiet alertness. You notice the tension in someone's shoulders. You catch a micro-expression, one that lasts less than a second, and you already know something is off before anyone says a word. This isn't mystical intuition. This is pattern recognition at a neurological level. Your brain was trained early, trained by circumstances, to scan your environment for emotional data because at one point, that scanning kept you safe. The skill stayed. The threat didn't have to. One down. How many are you recognizing so far? Sign 2. You sense what people need before they do. You notice when someone is struggling even when they say I'm fine. You feel the shift in a person's energy before they've had the language to describe it themselves. Psychologists call this hyperempathy, and it develops in people who grew up closely tracking the emotional states of caregivers or family members just to navigate safely. You didn't choose to become this perceptive. You were shaped into it. Sign 3. Under pressure, you go calm. When things fall apart around you, something inside you goes quiet and strategic. You don't freeze. You function. Researchers call this stress inoculation. The nervous system, having been repeatedly exposed to high-stakes environments, becomes better calibrated to navigate them. Crisis doesn't paralyze you. It activates you, because at one point, it was simply your normal. Sign 4. You think about human behavior almost compulsively. You replay conversations. You analyze motives. You search for the meaning behind actions that other people don't even register. This psychological depth wasn't a personality choice. It was forged by years of trying to understand the unpredictable behavior of people around you. You became a student of human nature because understanding people felt essential to your survival. Sign 5. Pause here. Everything described so far, the perceptiveness, the empathy, the strategic calm, these are not weaknesses dressed up as strengths to make you feel better about your past. These are genuine cognitive and emotional adaptations. Documented, measurable, real. But the next 5 signs, these go deeper. They reveal something more personal. Something about who you became at your core. Don't leave yet. Sign 6. You built yourself. You don't wait for rescue. You build solutions independently, quietly, and often before anyone around you even sees the problem. Developmentally, this makes complete sense. When the environment in childhood wasn't reliably supportive, the brain internalized one truth. Dependence is a risk. Competence is a shield. So competence became your default, not because someone taught you that, but because your nervous system learned it. Sign 7. You feel things at a frequency most people can't access. Music hits you differently. Injustice bothers you on a visceral level. A small act of kindness from a stranger can genuinely move you. Someone's suffering, even a stranger's, lands in you like it's your own. This is one of the most defining markers of traumatic intelligence. The amygdala, sensitized through repeated emotional activation, becomes finely tuned, not just to threats, but to the full spectrum of human experience. You don't just observe the world. You feel it. All of it. At a depth most people never reach. Sign 8. Your trust is rare. But when it's real, it's unbreakable. You don't trust easily. This isn't cynicism, and it isn't damage. It's what cognitive psychologists call adaptive skepticism. Your brain learned early that not all signals of safety were genuine. So it built filters. Those filters can feel isolating. But they also mean the connections you do form tend to be honest, deep, and unusually resilient. You don't collect relationships. You choose them. Sign 9. Stillness makes you uncomfortable. This is the one almost nobody talks about. Slowing down can feel almost unsafe. When things go quiet, the mind wanders inward, and not always gently. The nervous system keeps scanning even when there's nothing left to scan for. Rest starts to feel like a threat rather than a relief. This is not a character flaw. This is a conditioned response. And here's what matters. Learning to rest, for someone with traumatic intelligence, is not laziness. It is reclaiming. It is slowly, deliberately, teaching your brain the thing it was never allowed to fully believe. The threat has passed. You are allowed to be still now. Sign 10. You carry a quiet, unshakable sense of meaning. You don't move through life casually. You've looked closely at pain, your own and others, and something in you has refused to let it be meaningless. You seek depth. You pursue purpose. You ask questions most people never think to ask. Psychologists Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun spent decades studying post-traumatic growth. And what they found is that a significant portion of people who navigate real adversity emerge not just intact, but with a deeper philosophical clarity about what actually matters and why. You learned wisdom earlier than most. That isn't nothing. That's everything. Here's what I want you to sit with before you leave. Traumatic intelligence isn't something to romanticize. The sharpness was real, but so was the cost. What psychology asks us to understand, and what I think you genuinely deserve to hear, is that the human brain is not simply damaged by hardship. It is also, in specific and measurable ways, transformed by it. The perceptiveness you carry, the empathy you extend, the way you read rooms, build quietly, feel deeply, trust carefully, these are not accidents. They are the architecture of a mind that had to grow quickly, and it did. The question was never how you got here. The question is what you choose to do with the intelligence you built along the way. Now, I asked you at the beginning to count. So tell me in the comments, how many of these 10 signs did you recognize in yourself? Drop your number. And if one of them hit differently, if one of them stopped you mid-breath, tell me which one and why. I read every single comment on this channel, and conversations like that are exactly why I make these videos. If this reached something real in you, share it with someone who carries more than they show. They may not know this about themselves yet. And if you're new here, subscribe. At Psych Decoded, we don't do surface-level psychology. We go deep every single time.